I then came across Neck Deep in 2012, and that completely changed the trajectory. I don't think I would be sat here right now if I hadn't kind of made it through that year. And sort of, it was almost like Neck Deep was like the career reward at the end of like a year or so of drifting and having a bit of a crisis, really.
So you spot Neck Deep, and I guess all that experience puts you in the perfect position.
Yeah, it was instant. I instantly knew there was something there, and this is before they hadn't even played a show at this point. They'd not played a single gig. I found them through the song "A Part of Me" on YouTube. It was sent to me by a chap in the US. I was doing a little bit of work for a band called Brutality or Prevail, and they had independently released their album, and I was looking for license partners for it in global markets. And a chap in the US said, "Oh, you're from the UK. Have you heard of this band?" And sent me the video to "A Part of Me." I'd not heard of them, and I was quite, at the time, like I felt like I was quite tapped into like new UK bands, like hot UK bands, whatever. And so I was surprised that I hadn't heard of a band from the UK who were kind of doing numbers already. But it turns out they were big on Tumblr. I didn't have a Tumblr.
Yeah, I didn't know they were big on Tumblr.
Yeah,
I don't have
kind
one,
of, that's, I guess, like people did Tumblr edits, and it was kind of happening in a space that I wasn't kind of plugged into.
Yeah.
And I got sent the video to "A Part of Me," and like it had a couple of thousand views on it. But at the time, I remember feeling like that was significant for a band that I hadn't really heard of, and that wasn't really anybody. And
it's just wild to think that a band that new are releasing a song that good.
Right, exactly. And
like,
yeah, exactly that. And it wasn't just that the song was good. There was something in Ben.
Yeah.
There was something in him that I was like, this guy has it. Yeah. He means it. And I don't know, like, you can listen to that song and his voice is breaking and cracking, and he's this young kid. You know, he was 17, I think, as well. But like, there was just something about it. It had like a magic about it. And I emailed them pretty much straight away, and they were familiar with my name from Architects and LTA, and then actually some of the hardcore bands I'd done some work with, so BWP, Your Demise, Last Witness. Like I'd sort of floated around in the Ghost Fest scene.
Oh yeah, I remember Ghost Fest.
Yeah, just kind of helping out bands here and there, and that meant something to them. And so they wanted to take a meeting, and we met up on the day of their second ever show, which was in London. At the Barfly, they were supporting Me Versus Hero on a little run of shows. I think it was like 4 shows or something. They played their first show the night before. So I'd gotten in touch with them a week or 2 prior, and I was like, can I come and see you live? And they were like, oh, we're going on our first ever tour like next week. So it just felt kind of cosmic. They played their first show, then they came to London in the day. We met up, had a chat, and essentially just went, shall we do it? You know, let's go.
How come you're not with the band anymore?
COVID, burnout, all sorts of, a multitude of reasons.
Poached by Joey.
Yeah. Imagine. No, not this time. No, we were together nearly 8 years, Neck Deep and I, and we traversed our way through 3 different management agencies. So I was at Mythophonic when I started with them. Then we moved to KMGMT. We were there for the longest portion of my time with the band was at KMGMT. We were there for 4 years. And then we moved to an agency called IE, which is the management company for Robbie Williams. Cool. We were there for the last couple of years. of my time with them. And now they're at 5B, not with Joe. With Ian Dickinson, who looks after a bunch of great bands. Yeah. I had hit a burnout in the job. I had just I had a daughter. My wife and I had a daughter as I was joining iMusic, and she turned 1 just before COVID, and NetDeep and I parted ways midway through COVID. So trying to work at the time, a band of the level NetDeep were, whilst being a new parent, and then facing a global pandemic, various puzzle pieces, various external pressures weighed into things not working with us anymore. It was a mutual parting of ways. We were no longer a good fit for each other. What they needed and demanded from and expected from management, which is nothing, that's not to say it was unreasonable, what they needed and what I was able and, to be honest, willing to provide at that moment in time, these things did no longer align. And over 8 years, a lot of things can build up, and we had worked together. They'd never not had me as a manager. I'd worked with them from their second ever show. We'd been together this entire time. And across the course of 8 years, as you can imagine, you change in life. They grew up in NetDeep. When NetDeep first started touring the US, Ben and Danny were not old enough to be in the venues that they were headlining. But obviously they got the exemption because they were the headliners, but they couldn't. They played Las Vegas and they couldn't go into the casinos for the first few tours that they did out in the US. Like, they were getting to know each other as a band whilst being a headline level artist, whilst having to deal with the pressures that come with being a hot band, a successful band, a band that's touring the world 8-9 months of the year. By the time you get 8 years into a career, they have girlfriends, they have partners, they have fiancés, they have mortgages, they have this. Their life changed. I had a child, and suddenly you find yourself going, gosh, feels like we don't really fit anymore. And like, what I need, what you need, there was just a disconnect. And I think we're perhaps all guilty of not seeing the wood for the trees, not appreciating maybe each other at the time. But I think it was just ultimately inevitable, especially with COVID. COVID stripped us of an album campaign. The band had put a lot of work into writing and recording All Distortions Are Intentional, and we'd set up a lot of cool things, a whole global touring campaign in the wake of that record. We got to do none of it because the pandemic obviously shut the world down, and the frustrations that came with that, I guess, metastasized for all of us in various areas, and priorities shifted. Certainly for me, I can only speak to myself, I can't speak on their behalf, but certainly for me, my priorities shifted because I had a newborn daughter at home, and I wanted to support my family, and things just stopped working. That's the long story short of it. It was no longer a good fit. Something that had been a good fit and had been a great success for a long time suddenly felt like perhaps we're doing more damage than good to each other. And there was an opportunity for me to exit, and I took it.